The war between humans and the alien race, called Veari, had lasted for many years. Both sides had lost countless soldiers, and both sides had learned to hate the other deeply. The Veari were known for their cold hearts, their emotionless faces, and their iron discipline. Among them, one warrior woman was feared above all. Her name was not spoken by humans, but they called her the Heart of Steel. She never showed mercy, and she never bowed to fear. But fate has strange ways of changing even the hardest hearts. The human officer, Captain Elias Ward, walked slowly through the ruins of a battlefield. The smoke was heavy in the air, and the ground was covered with broken machines and fallen soldiers. He carried his rifle, but his eyes searched for survivors. The silence of the place was broken only by the crackle of fire and the distant hum of damaged engines. Then he saw her, a figure lying against the shattered remains of a wall. Her silver armor was cracked, her weapon broken beside her. Her skin was pale, her hair dark and tangled, and her eyes, half open, burned with hatred even as her body trembled with weakness. Elias froze. He knew exactly who she was. Every human soldier had heard stories of the alien woman who led assaults without fear. The Heart of Steel. If anyone discovered she was still alive, they would demand her death. It would be the easy choice, the expected choice. But Elias did not move to finish her. Instead, he lowered his weapon. The alien woman narrowed her eyes, struggling to lift herself. Her voice was weak but sharp. "End it, human. Do what your kind always does." Elias looked at her for a long moment, but he saw something no one else would have noticed. Behind her fire and hate, there was pain, not only the pain of her wounds, but something deeper, something human. He whispered almost to himself, "No, I will not." She blinked, confused. Her people had always said humans were cruel, greedy, untrustworthy. But this one lowered his weapon. Instead of killing her, he pulled a small medkit from his belt. "You are my enemy," Elias said softly, kneeling beside her. But even enemies bleed the same color. Even enemies can be saved. She tried to push him away, her strength failing. Her pride screamed louder than her pain. "You think kindness will make me thank you? Foolish human, I would rather die." But Elias did not stop. He cleaned her wound quickly, wrapping it with steady hands. Every second, she glared at him, waiting for a trick. Yet no trick came, only quiet determination. The battlefield around them felt like another world. Where hatred should rule, Elias offered mercy. Where death should have been certain, he gave life. As he worked, voices crackled over his communicator. "Captain Ward, report. Any survivors? Secure the area." He looked at the alien woman, then back at the dark sky. If he told his crew the truth, she would be executed at once. He made a choice, a dangerous choice. "No survivors here," he answered firmly, his voice steady. Only he knew the risk he had just taken. Hiding her existence was a crime in war. But he could not walk away. The alien woman's eyes softened for the first time, only slightly. She could not understand him. No human kindness had ever touched her life before. Her people had told her humans were monsters. But this one was different. Why? The pain of her wound pulled her into unconsciousness. Her last thought before darkness took her was not anger. It was confusion. Why would a human show mercy? Why would he risk his life for her? Elias carried her carefully, hiding her under his cloak. Every step was heavy, but his resolve was clear. He told himself he was doing it because no one deserved to be left to die. But in his heart, he knew it was something more, something he could not yet name. When he reached his ship, he avoided the main entrance. He moved through the shadows, careful not to be seen. Every door he opened felt like a test, every corner a trap. If his soldiers discovered the truth, it would all be over. Finally, he reached the medical bay, locking the doors behind him. He placed her gently on the table, her armor shining faintly under the lights. For a moment, he just stood there breathing hard. Then he whispered again, "Enemy or not, I will not let you die here." And as the ship engines roared to life, the story truly began. the human who offered kindness, and the alien woman whose heart of steel was about to break. The hum of the ship surrounded her as the alien woman slowly opened her eyes. The ceiling above her was white and smooth, nothing like the dark warships of her people. She sat up quickly, her hand reaching for a weapon that was no longer there. Pain shot through her side where the human had patched her wounds. She clenched her teeth, her pride refusing to show weakness. Her sharp eyes scanned the room. Strange machines beeped softly, glowing with faint blue light. She was in a human medical bay. Her chest rose and fell faster, her mind racing. Captured, she thought. A prisoner of war. Her people had always said humans would never show mercy. So why was she alive? The door hissed open, and Captain Elias Ward stepped inside. He carried no weapon, only a tray with food and water. His expression calm, almost gentle. The alien woman narrowed her eyes, every muscle ready to fight. Why? She demanded, her voice cold. Why am I not dead? Elias set the tray down slowly, keeping his distance. Because leaving you to die would make me no better than those who abandoned you, he said. You are safe here, at least for now. Her laugh was bitter, hollow. Safe? You think a prisoner can ever be safe among enemies? Her voice dripped with hatred, but her heart trembled with something she did not understand. Elias pulled a chair and sat, his gaze steady. You are not my prisoner, he said quietly. You are my patient. Those words struck her harder than any weapon. Her people had never treated enemies as anything more than tools or corpses. To be called a patient, to be treated as someone worth saving, was beyond her comprehension. She looked away, refusing to show confusion. But inside a storm brewed. If she was not his prisoner, then what was she? Why would an enemy captain risk his career, maybe even his life, to protect her? The silence between them stretched, filled only by the faint hum of the ship. Finally, Elias stood and moved to leave. Eat, he said simply. Your strength will return faster. Then he left, locking the door behind him. The alien woman stared at the food, untouched. Every lesson from her people told her this was a trap. Kindness was weakness, mercy was a lie. But still, her body ached with hunger. Her hand shook slightly as she reached for the water. She hated herself for drinking it, hated him more for making her doubt. Elsewhere on the ship, tension grew. Several human crew members had already noticed their captain acting strangely. He avoided reports, stayed too long in the medical bay, and kept secrets from his own men. Whispers spread through the halls like wildfire. Something's wrong with Ward, one soldier muttered. He's hiding something, another replied. Suspicion grew, and loyalty began to crack. Elias knew this. He heard the whispers, saw the glares, but he stayed firm. He had chosen this path, and he would walk it, no matter the cost. Days passed, and the alien woman slowly healed. Her strength returned, but so did her questions. Each time Elias entered, she asked him why. Each time his answer was the same. Because it was right. The simplicity of it frustrated her. She wanted lies, she wanted schemes, she wanted a reason she could understand. But his honesty cut deeper than any blade. One night, when the ship floated quietly between the stars, she finally asked, Do you not fear me? Do you not fear what I will do once I am strong again? Elias looked at her, his face unreadable. I fear many things, he admitted, but I will not fear you. You can kill me if you wish, but at least I will know I chose kindness. For the first time in her life, she had no answer. Her entire world had been built on strength, fear, and obedience. But this human strength came from something else, and it made her feel weak, weak in a way that terrified her. The next day, Elias's first officer confronted him. Captain, the men are restless. They sense you are hiding something. If you keep secrets, you will lose control. Elias held his ground, but the warning was clear. If the crew discovered the truth, mutiny was possible. The alien woman was not just a danger to herself, but to him as well. And yet, when Elias looked into her eyes later, he saw a flicker of something he never thought possible. Not hate, Not anger, but hesitation. A crack in her heart of steel. It was small, fragile, but it was there. He told himself he could still set her free when the time came. He told himself he could end this before it went too far. But deep down, he already knew the truth. The moment he chose kindness, his fate and hers had become tied. And as the ship sailed deeper into the unknown, both human and alien stood on the edge of something greater than war, something far more dangerous, a bond neither of them had asked for, but one neither of them could now escape. The silence of space stretched endless outside the ship, but inside, tension was sharp as a blade. The crew whispered in corners, their eyes following Captain Elias wherever he walked. They had fought with him for years, trusted his judgment in countless battles. But now doubts spread like a sickness. They saw the way he avoided questions, the way he disappeared into the medical bay. Something was wrong, and they wanted answers. The alien woman, the feared heart of steel, sat in that very bay, recovering. Her wounds closed, her strength slowly returning. But her spirit was restless. She paced the small room like a caged beast, her mind at war with itself. Every lesson drilled into her, since childhood, told her the human was her enemy, that his kindness was nothing but a trick, and yet she could not shake the memory of his steady hands tending her wounds. The way he had said, "You are my patient, not my prisoner," those words gnawed at her heart in ways she did not understand. One evening, Elias stood at the ship's command table, his officers gathered around. A nearby outpost had sent a distress call, faint, broken by static, but clear enough to spark concern. Unknown ships attacking, the message had said before cutting out. The officers argued fiercely. Could be a trap, one warned. We should ignore it, said another. Elias listened silently, his jaw tight. Finally, he gave the order, set course for the outpost. If someone is under attack, we cannot turn away. The crew obeyed, but unease deepened. They could not shake the feeling their captain had already crossed a line, and now he was dragging them further into danger. Back in the medical bay, the alien woman overheard whispers through the vents. The crew spoke of betrayal, of suspicion, of mutiny. Her sharp ears caught every word. If they discovered she was here, they would kill her without hesitation. A part of her wanted to let it happen, to prove humans were as cruel as she had been taught. But another part, a quieter, weaker part, felt a flicker of something else. Fear, not of death, but of losing the strange kindness she had found in Elias. When Elias entered later, carrying another tray of food, she studied him carefully. "You are losing your men," she said coldly. "They whisper about you. They are ready to break." Elias paused and set the tray down. "I know," he admitted. "You could stop this," she pressed. "Turn me in. Let them see me, and their trust will return." Elias looked at her, his eyes steady. "If I turned you in, you would be dead within the hour. Better that than your crew's loyalty destroyed," she snapped. But he shook his head. "No, I will not build trust on blood. I chose this path, and I will carry it." Her chest tightened, though she did not show it. Why did his words always cut deeper than any blade? Why did his refusal to kill her feel heavier than chains? The ship soon reached the outpost, but what they found was worse than anyone expected. The small station drifted in silence, its walls scarred with fire. Bodies floated in the darkness outside, and strange markings, not human, not Veari, burned into the metal. "Not our enemy," one officer whispered in horror. "This is someone else. Elias gut twisted." If another power was rising in the galaxy, the fragile balance of war would collapse. And deep inside, he knew the alien woman might know more than she admitted. Back in her bay, she stared at the same symbols on a datapad, her face unreadable. Her people feared these markings, though she had never spoken of them to the human. They were the sign of the Dravari, raiders from beyond known space. Even her heart of steel shivered at the memory of their cruelty. She clenched her fists. If the humans discovered this truth, they would demand her help, and she did not know if she was ready to give it. That night, as the ship drifted near the broken station, Elias stood alone in his quarters. He looked at his reflection in the glass. His crew no longer trusted him. His command was slipping, and yet he could not regret saving her. Her presence haunted him, challenged him, made him question everything he thought he knew of war. Was he losing control, or was he finally finding the path that mattered? Meanwhile, the alien woman lay awake in the medical bay. Her body healed, but her mind torn. She thought of Elias's words, of his kindness, of his refusal to fear her. No one in her life had ever looked at her that way. Not as a weapon, not as a monster, but as someone worth saving. And though she hated the thought, a small crack widened in her heart of steel. The shadows of war were growing darker. Suspicion inside the ship, danger beyond the stars, and a bond between enemies that defied all logic. The galaxy was shifting, and neither human nor alien could stop it. But together, perhaps they could change it, if only they survived long enough to choose. The medical bay was quiet, but the silence was heavy. The alien woman sat on the edge of her bed, staring at the untouched food on the tray. Her body was strong again, healed enough to fight, but her mind was unsettled. She had been raised to see kindness as a weakness, yet the human captain's actions kept circling in her thoughts. Why had he saved her? Why did he continue to protect her? The door opened, and Elias entered, his face tired, his uniform wrinkled. He looked like a man carrying the weight of 1,000 battles. Without a word, he placed a small container on the table beside her. Steam rose from it, the smell strange but warm. "Not rations this time," he said softly. "Real food from Earth. Thought you might like to try it." She narrowed her eyes, suspicion sharp as ever. "You still play this game, offering kindness as if it means something." Elias only shrugged, pulling a chair across from her. "Eat or don't. That choice is yours, but the offer is real." For a long moment she did nothing. Her pride fought against her hunger, but the scent was stronger than her will. She lifted the spoon slowly, her sharp gaze never leaving his. The taste was unfamiliar, simple, soft, warm. Something in her chest tightened, and she hated it. She hated that food, hated that man, hated the strange feeling that spread inside her. "Why are you doing this?" she finally asked, her voice low. "You know I could kill you. You know I may betray you." Elias leaned forward, his eyes calm. "Because you're more than a weapon. I see it, even if you don't." Her hands shook slightly, though she hid it. No one had ever spoken to her like that. Her people had forged her into a blade, cold and sharp. But this human refused to see her as only that. He saw something else, something she had buried long ago. Outside the bay, the ship was no safer. The crew's anger grew each day. Whispers turned into arguments, and arguments into plans. The first officer, Commander Hale, was the loudest voice of doubt. "He hides something from us. He endangers us all," Hale said to a small group. "If Ward cannot lead, then we must take command ourselves." The seeds of mutiny had been planted, and they were beginning to grow. Elias knew it. He saw it in their eyes, heard it in their silence when he entered the room. But still, he returned to the alien woman. Still, he chose to speak with her, as though their conversations mattered more than the whispers of his own men. One night, alarms blared through the ship. The crew rushed to stations, red lights flashing along the corridors. From the windows, shadows moved against the stars. Enemy ships, their markings the same strange ones carved into the outpost. The Dravari, fast and merciless, they attacked with no warning, weapons burning bright. The ship shook under fire, explosions echoing through the metal walls. Elias barked orders, his voice steady even as chaos spread. "Shields to full power. Return fire now." But the Dravari were strong, stronger than his crew expected. The battle was brutal, the ship torn apart piece by piece. In the medical bay, the alien woman felt the floor shudder under her feet. She grabbed the edge of the bed, her instincts screaming. These were not humans, not her people. This was a greater enemy, She knew their tactics, knew their cruelty. If they boarded, none of the humans would survive. The door burst open and Elias stormed in, his face pale but determined. He tossed a weapon toward her. "Fight with me," he said simply. The words shocked her more than the battle itself. He trusted her, truly trusted her, enough to put a gun in her hands. "You are mad," she spat, though her grip tightened around the weapon. "Maybe," Elias said, "but I would rather fight beside you than against them." Something inside her cracked then, a piece of her steel heart breaking apart. Against her own will, she stood. Her eyes burned with the fire of battle. But this time, it was not for her people. It was for him, for the man who had chosen kindness over hatred. They fought side by side through the corridors. The Dravari stormed the ship, their weapons cutting through walls and men alike. But the alien woman moved like a shadow, striking with deadly precision. Elias covered her back, his shots steady and sure. Together, they were unstoppable. The crew saw it. They saw their captain fighting beside the enemy they had been told to fear. Whispers of betrayal mixed with awe. Was she truly their enemy if she fought harder than any of them to save the ship? By the time the Dravari were pushed back, the ship was scarred, bodies lay in the halls, but still lived. The crew, shaken and bloody, gathered in silence. Their eyes turned to Elias and the alien woman standing at his side. No one spoke, but in that silence something shifted. The first threads of trust, fragile and uncertain, had been woven. Later, when the chaos faded and the fires burned low, the alien woman sat alone, her weapon resting across her knees. She stared at her hands, the same hands that had once killed humans without hesitation. Now those hands had saved them, and though she tried to deny it, a voice in her heart whispered the truth. His kindness had already begun to change her, and there was no turning back. The ship was quiet after the battle, but the silence was not peace. It was the silence of fear, of suspicion, of things left unspoken. The crew walked the halls with haunted eyes. They had seen death, they had seen the Dravari, and they had seen their captain fighting beside the very alien they had sworn to hate. Commander Hale gathered a group in the mess hall. His voice was sharp, his words heavy. "You all saw it. She fought with him. He gave her a weapon. How long before she turns it on us?" Some nodded, anger burning in their eyes. Others hesitated, remembering how she had saved their lives. But Hale's voice pressed harder. "Ward is blinded by pity. He risks us all. If he cannot act, then we must." The seeds of mutiny, once whispers, now began to take root. In the medical bay, the alien woman cleaned the weapon Elias had given her. Her fingers traced the metal, her thoughts tangled. She should have killed him when she had the chance. That was what her people would have expected. That was what the heart of steel was meant to do. But instead, she had stood beside him, fought beside him, bled beside him. And the strangest part was this. It had felt right. Elias entered quietly, his face tired but steady. "You saved more than a few lives today," he said, his voice calm. She looked up, her eyes sharp. "Do not mistake it for loyalty. Human, I fought because I hate the Dravari more than I hate you." Elias gave a small smile, not mocking, not cruel, just knowing, "Maybe, but hate is not the only reason you stood with me." Her chest tightened, and she hated that he could see her so clearly. She wanted to argue, to spit words of venom, but nothing came. Instead, she looked away, the silence between them speaking louder than her voice ever could. Later that night, as the ship drifted through the stars, shadows moved within. Commander Hale and his loyal men approached the medical bay, weapons ready. Their faces were grim, their steps heavy. They meant to end this, end her, and, if needed, end their captain. Inside, the alien woman felt it before she heard it. Her instincts, sharpened by years of war, screamed of danger. She stood quickly, weapon in hand, her heart pounding. The door slid open, and Hale stepped in, flanked by armed soldiers. His eyes were hard as stone. "It ends tonight," he said. Stand aside, Captain, or share her fate. Elias stood between them without hesitation. His voice was steady, though his men outnumbered him. She is not your enemy. Hail, she saved this ship. She is Veari. Hail, spat. She has spilled more human blood than you can imagine. And you protect her? You betray us all. The alien woman's grip on her weapon tightened. She could kill them. She knew it. But if she fired, she would prove Hail right. The crew would see her not as an ally, but as a monster. Her mind raced, torn between instinct and something far more dangerous, trust. For a moment, time seemed frozen. The humans stared at their captain, their weapons aimed at her chest. Elias stood like an unshaken wall, refusing to move. And she, the heart of steel, stood behind him, unable to decide. Finally, Elias spoke, his voice like iron. If you want her dead, then you'll have to kill me first. Gasps spread through the soldiers. Even Hale faltered for a moment. The alien woman's eyes widened. She had never asked for his protection, yet he gave it freely, even against his own kind. Something broke inside her then, something deep and hidden. Her heart of steel cracked wider, and in the gap, something new began to form. The standoff broke when alarms blared again. Dravari ships were closing in, faster and stronger than before. The crew stumbled, their weapons lowering in panic. Elias seized the moment. Decide later, he barked. Right now, we fight together or we all die. The soldiers hesitated, torn between anger and survival. But the attack shook the ship violently, forcing their choice. They scattered to battle stations, leaving Hale glaring, his rebellion unfinished but not forgotten. On the bridge, the alien woman stood beside Elias, her weapon ready. For the first time, she spoke not with hatred, but with a strange fire in her voice. You trusted me when you should not have. You stood for me when no one else would. I will not betray that. Elias glanced at her, his eyes meeting hers. Then let's survive this together. And for the first time in her life, the heart of steel felt something stronger than duty, stronger than fear. She felt loyalty, not to her people, not to her past, but to him, the human who had chosen kindness when no one else would. Outside, the Dravari storm raged closer. Inside, mutiny simmered like fire under ash. Between them, a fragile bond had been forged, one that might save them or destroy them all. The stars outside burned red with fire as the Dravari ships closed in. Their weapons carved through the darkness, sharp and merciless. The human vessel groaned under the weight of the assault, shields flashing, metal tearing. Every man and woman aboard felt the truth. This battle could be their last. On the bridge, Elias stood firm, giving orders with calm precision. Divert power to the forward shields, ready torpedoes, aim for their engines. His voice cut through fear like a blade, pulling his crew into order. But behind their eyes, doubt still flickered. They had seen him defend the alien woman. They had seen him risk everything for her. Now, as death loomed, they wondered if his strange choices would doom them all. The alien woman stood near him, silent and watchful. Her weapon rested across her arms, her posture sharp and proud. She could feel the eyes of the crew on her, burning with suspicion. She was the outsider, the enemy. Yet for the first time, she did not feel like their enemy. For the first time, she wanted to prove them wrong. When the Dravari breached the hull, chaos exploded. Black-armored raiders poured into the corridors, their blades glowing with sick light. Screams echoed through the metal halls. Gunfire thundered. Blood stained the walls. The ship shuddered with every hit. Panic threatened to crush the humans, until a figure cut through the storm like a shadow. The alien woman, the one they had feared, moved like fire unleashed. Her strikes were swift and merciless, her every motion precise. She fought not as their prisoner, not as their enemy, but as their shield. Where men fell, she stood. Where hope broke, she carried it. More than once, her weapons saved human lives. and the crew could not deny what their eyes saw. Elias fought beside her, his rifle blazing. Once a Dravari blade came for him, sharp and certain. But the alien woman blocked it, her arm bleeding as she shoved the attacker back. Her voice hissed with fury. No one touches him. For Elias, it was a moment that burned into his soul. This was no trick, no manipulation. She had chosen to protect him, truly chosen it. Her heart of steel was breaking, and in its place, something human was growing. Still, danger pressed harder. Commander Hale saw his chance in the chaos. As the crew fought to hold the line, Hale aimed his weapon not at the Dravari, but at her. His face twisted with rage. She will betray us. I'll end it now. He fired. The shot screamed through the air, but Elias threw himself in front of her, the blast grazing his shoulder. He stumbled, blood running down his arm. The alien woman's scream tore from her throat, raw and furious. She spun, her weapon striking Hale down in an instant. Not killing him, though she easily could have, but disarming him, knocking him to the ground. Her voice thundered. He is your captain. He stands for you while you cower in fear. You dare turn your gun on him while the true enemy burns your ship. The crew froze, stunned. Her words cut through the smoke and fire. They had seen her fight. They had seen her bleed for them. Now they saw her fury not against them, but for them. For the first time, their hatred faltered, replaced by something dangerous, respect. Elias, breathing hard, forced himself back to his feet. His gaze met hers, pain in his eyes, but also something deeper. Thank you, he whispered. She shook her head, her own voice trembling. No, I should be thanking you. You gave me a chance to be more than a weapon. Her people had named her the Heart of Steel, unbreakable, untouchable. But now, as she stood with blood on her hands and fire in her chest, she realized steel could break. And beneath it, a heart of flesh could beat again. The battle raged for hours. Together, human and alien fought as one. The Dravari, fierce and merciless, finally broke under their combined strength. Their ships retreated into the black void, leaving only wreckage behind. When silence returned, the ship was battered but alive. The crew gathered in the ruined corridors, looking to their captain, and then to her, the alien woman who had once been their enemy. Now, they could no longer deny the truth. She had saved them all. That night, as the fires dimmed and the wounded were carried to rest, Elias found her sitting alone in the hangar. She stared at the stars through the cracked glass, her expression unreadable. He approached quietly, his arms still bandaged. You didn't have to save me, he said softly. She turned to him, her eyes glowing faintly in the starlight. You didn't have to save me either, she answered, her voice low but certain. For a long time they sat in silence. The space between them no longer filled with hatred or suspicion, but with something fragile, something new. The war was not over. The Dravari would return. Her people still called humans their enemy. His crew still carried doubt in their hearts. But tonight, for the first time, she allowed herself to believe in something she had never known. Hope. The ship drifted through space like a wounded beast, its hull torn, its engines weak but still alive. The crew worked silently to repair the damage, their hands steady, their eyes heavy with exhaustion. The Dravari were gone, for now, but their shadow lingered. Everyone knew they would return, stronger, hungrier, relentless. Elias walked the ruined corridors, his shoulders still bandaged, his steps slow but steady. He passed his men, some saluting weakly, some watching in silence. He felt their stares, not just of doubt anymore, but of something harder to define. Respect, perhaps, mixed with unease. They had seen what he had risked, what he had chosen, and though they did not understand, they could no longer deny his strength. The alien woman remained apart from them. She stood in the hangar, her eyes locked on the stars. The humans avoided her, but fewer now turned away with hatred. They had seen her fight, bleed, and save. Even if their hearts still carried fear, their voices no longer called her monster. Word reached them that her people, the Veari, had noticed her absence. A message came across the comms, cold and sharp. Return our warrior, or be destroyed. The word struck like a blade across the ship. To the crew, it was confirmation of their worst fears. She was a danger, a bargaining chip, a weapon waiting to turn. Commander Hale, still bitter from his humiliation, pressed his case. Give her back, he demanded in front of the officers. She is not ours. She belongs to them. If we defy the Veari, they will burn us from the stars. Murmurs spread. It seemed the easiest choice. Hand her over and survive. But Elias shook his head. No, he said firmly. She is not a weapon to be traded. She is not a prize of war. She has earned her place here. The crew stared, stunned by his defiance. Hale's voice rose with fury. You will doom us for her. Before Elias could respond, the alien woman stepped forward. Her voice was steady, but her heart pounded. No, she said, her eyes blazing. I will not be returned to them. Not as their soldier, not as their prisoner. She turned her gaze to the humans, to the men who had once glared at her with hatred. I fought for you. I bled for you. I stood against the Dravari when I could have let you die. Her voice grew stronger. You think I belong to the Veari, but I no longer belong to them. I am not their weapon. I am not their heart of steel. Her words rang across the room, silencing even Hale. For the first time, she had spoken not as a soldier, not as an alien, but as something more. The comms crackled again, the Veari's voice demanding her return. Elias looked at her, giving her the choice. Tell me what you want, he said quietly. The crew held their breath. This was the moment, betrayal or loyalty, steel or flesh. She closed her eyes, remembering her people, their cold faces, their endless wars. Then she remembered Elias, his kindness, his defiance, his steady hands. When she opened her eyes, the answer was clear. I choose to stay, she said. Not because I am human, not because I am Veari, but because here I was seen as more than a weapon, and I will not go back to chains. The room was silent. Even Hale could not speak. The crew, one by one, lowered their heads in reluctant acceptance. She had chosen them, and in choosing them, she had changed everything. When the Veari threatened fire, Elias sent a message back. She is not your prisoner. She is free. If you want her, you will have to come through us. It was a gamble, one that could bring war. But his voice carried no fear, only certainty. The alien woman stood beside him, her hand brushing the weapon at her hip. For the first time, she felt no doubt. Her heart of steel was gone. In its place beat a heart of flesh, scarred, fragile, but alive. Later, in the quiet of the hangar, she stood with Elias, watching the stars. Her voice was softer now, stripped of the sharp edges it once carried. They call me the heart of steel, she whispered, but your kindness shattered it. You broke what I thought could never break. Elias looked at her, his gaze steady. Then maybe it was never steel at all. Maybe it was always waiting to be free. She said nothing more, but for the first time, she allowed herself to smile. It was small, fragile, but real. A smile not of a warrior, not of an enemy, but of someone who had finally found hope. The war was not over. The Dravari still lurked, the Veari still threatened, the humans still struggled. But on this battered ship, something new had been born. A bond beyond enemies, beyond blood, beyond war. A bond forged in kindness. A bond that might one day change the galaxy itself. And as the stars stretched before them, endless and bright, the heart of steel was no more. Only a woman with a heart that finally beat free.